Listen closely, because what I'm about to say has the power to rewrite the story you tell yourself every single day. Your mind believes the voice it hears the most. Make sure it's yours. That truth is so simple, yet so underestimated, because most people don't even realize how much of their inner world has been taken over by voices that aren't theirs. The opinions of strangers, the fears of family members, the echoes of old mistakes. These sounds get loud and they get comfortable. They take space in your mind without paying rent. And slowly, without noticing, you start living your life based on the noise instead of your own truth. But there comes a moment, maybe it's now, when you have to take that voice back. You have to reclaim the authority inside your head. Because if you don't, someone else will write the script of your life. And that is not the story you were meant to live. When you wake up in the morning before your feet even hit the ground, your mind is already talking. It says something, good or bad, empowering or destructive. It sets a tone. And the dangerous part is, you believe it, even if it's wrong. If your first thoughts are, I'm exhausted, I'm behind, I'm not ready for today, your entire day starts in deficit mode. But imagine the shift when your inner voice says, I can handle this, I am capable, I've already survived worse. That's not fake positivity. That's strategy. That's leadership. That's taking responsibility for the direction of your energy. Because every single moment, your mind is looking for instructions. And if you don't give it clear ones, it will default to anxiety, fear, and negativity. You owe yourself better than that. Most people think thoughts just happen. They think the brain is some wild, uncontrollable machine. But your mind is trainable. It listens, it adapts, it rewires. Every time you speak to yourself, you're creating a pathway, a route your brain begins to follow more automatically. If your inner dialogue is constantly doubting you, questioning you, belittling you, your brain adapts to that. It becomes your default state. But if you feed it strength every day, if you choose thoughts that build you, challenge you, remind you of who you are, your brain adapts to that too. Positive self-talk isn't magic. It's repetition. It's consistency. And when you repeat something long enough, you start to believe it. When you believe it long enough, you start to embody it. And when you embody it long enough, it becomes your reality. Think about the most confident people you've ever met. Not the loud ones, not the arrogant ones, but the genuinely grounded, secure, unshakable ones. Their confidence didn't come from a perfect life or a perfect past. It came from the way they speak to themselves. They don't entertain thoughts that insult their potential. They don't give power to their doubts. They don't negotiate with the part of their mind that wants them to shrink. They've trained their inner voice to be their ally, not their enemy. That is the difference. That is what sets them apart. Not luck, not talent, not opportunity, but inner dialogue. And the best part, that kind of dialogue is something anyone can build. But it requires honesty, brutal honesty. You have to recognize when your inner voice is not your own, when it's repeating criticism you absorbed years ago, when it's echoing someone else's insecurity, when it's speaking from fear instead of truth. And in those moments, you have to interrupt it, not ignore it, not suppress it, interrupt it, replace it, challenge it, tell yourself something stronger, even if you don't fully believe it yet. Because belief grows, confidence grows, strength grows, but they only grow in environments where your inner voice is on your side. So make your voice louder than your fear, louder than your doubt, louder than the world outside. Not because you're pretending, but because you're reminding yourself of who you really are. Your mind is the only place you live your entire life. You don't get to move out of it. You don't get to take a vacation from it. You don't get to return the keys. So make that place livable. Make it empowering. Build a mental environment that pushes you forward instead of pulling you down. When your inner voice becomes the loudest source of courage in your life, you become unstoppable. Not because everything gets easier, but because you get stronger. You show up differently, you think differently, you respond differently. And it all begins with one powerful truth: your mind believes the voice it hears the most. So let that voice be strong. Let it be loving. Let it be yours. You are the narrator of your own story. Speak like someone who knows their power. Positive self-talk isn't delusion. It's direction. People misunderstand this all the time. They think encouraging yourself is some kind of fantasy, some emotional band-aid you slap on when life gets hard. But that's not what it is. Positive self-talk is about choosing the direction your mind moves in. It's choosing what road your thoughts will follow, what story your brain will believe. Because your brain doesn't question what you tell it, it simply builds from it. When you say, I can figure this out, your brain starts looking for solutions. When you say, I'll never get this, your brain shuts down. You're not lying to yourself when you think positively. You're leading yourself. And leadership begins with language. The words you feed your mind become the path it walks. The truth is, your mind is constantly predicting your future based on the words you use today. If your inner dialogue is full of fear, your mind prepares for danger. If your inner dialogue is full of defeat, your mind braces for failure. But if your inner dialogue is rooted in strength, possibility, and resilience, your mind gears up to win. That's what direction is. It's your internal GPS. And too many people live their entire lives with the GPS set toward doubt, mediocrity, and fear, then wonder why they never arrive anywhere extraordinary. Your thoughts are not passengers, they are drivers. Positive self-talk takes the wheel, grabs it with both hands and says, this is where we're going. This is who we're becoming. And that shift, right there, is where everything changes. There's a massive difference between delusion and vision. Delusion is ignoring reality. Vision is choosing what you want reality to become. When you say, I'm capable, you're not denying your flaws, you're acknowledging your potential. When you say, I'm going to grow through this, you're not pretending the struggle isn't real, you're saying you're stronger than it. Every person who has ever achieved something meaningful has used positive self-talk, intentionally or not. Athletes, leaders, creators, people who climb from the bottom to the top, they all speak to themselves in ways that pull them forward. Not because life is easy, but because mindset is leverage. Mindset is fuel. Mindset is the difference between breaking and rising. And the words you say to yourself are the spark. You don't rise by accident, you rise by alignment. And positive self-talk aligns your actions with your goals. When your inner world supports your outer efforts, you move differently. You show up with energy. You take risks. You push through discomfort. You see possibilities where others see walls. Every great achievement starts with two things, belief and behavior. And belief always comes first. When you talk to yourself with power, you set the tone for how you act. You create momentum. You drive yourself into motion. And the moment your thoughts and your actions agree with each other, you become a force that can't be slowed down. That's the real purpose of positive self-talk. It aligns your inner and outer worlds so you can move with purpose, clarity, and strength. But let's be honest, positive self-talk takes courage. It's easy to spiral into negativity. It's easy to underestimate yourself. It's easy to listen to the loudest fears in your mind and mistake them for truth. But it takes courage to speak strength into moments that feel weak. It takes courage to tell yourself you can rise when everything feels heavy. It takes courage to choose hope when the world pushes you toward doubt. And that courage, those moments when you choose to speak powerfully, even when you don't feel powerful, those moments shape you. They harden your resilience. They sharpen your focus. They build your character, because positive self-talk is not about pretending. It's about practicing courage until it becomes your nature. You have to remember this. Your words create your world. Every time you speak strength, you plant a seed. Every time you speak determination, you build muscle. Every time you speak belief, you elevate your future. Positive self-talk isn't a trick, it's a transformation. It takes time, it takes consistency, but it works. Your mind listens, your heart listens, your life listens. And when all three align, you stop surviving, you start thriving, you start leading your destiny instead of reacting to your circumstances. And that is the moment you become unstoppable, because direction matters more than speed. And positive self-talk sets your direction toward growth, toward courage, toward power, toward becoming the person you were always meant to be. You are not lying to yourself when you speak with power. You are lighting the path for the future you're determined to create. Positive self-talk isn't delusion, it's direction. Most people don't understand that. They hear words like affirmations or positive thinking and instantly assume it means ignoring reality. But the truth is, positive self-talk is the exact opposite of denial. It is the decision to choose the reality you want to move toward. When you speak power into your mind, you're not pretending everything is perfect. You're giving yourself a compass, a target, a trajectory. You're telling your brain where to go instead of letting it drag you back into habits, memories, and fears that don't serve you anymore. Negative self-talk is automatic. Positive self-talk is intentional. It's conscious. It's a personal declaration of direction, not a fantasy. Every thought you think has consequences. Every sentence you whisper to yourself becomes a signal your brain responds to. Neuroscience has already proven this. The brain listens to the language you use. If you constantly feed it defeat, it will find reasons to confirm that defeat. If you feed it possibility, it will scan the world for opportunity. Your brain is always building evidence. Your self-talk decides what it builds evidence for. When you catch yourself saying, "I'm not good enough," your brain will start listing everything that supports that idea. But when you say, "I'm capable of learning this," your brain switches into problem-solving mode. This is direction. This is intentional mental navigation. You're not lying, you're leading. Think about the moments when your confidence has been strongest. Chances are, it wasn't because life was easy. It was because you talked to yourself differently. You encouraged yourself. You believed in your ability to figure things out. You pushed back against fear with words that gave you strength. Positive self-talk is not something you do only when everything is going well. It's something you need the most when everything is falling apart. Those are the moments when your inner voice becomes a lifeline. When everything outside feels chaotic, the voice inside becomes the anchor. It either pulls you deeper into the problem or lifts you into the mindset that can solve it. And that choice is always yours. There is a huge difference between saying, "Everything is fine," when it's clearly not, and saying, "I can handle this," even when you're scared. One is delusion, the other is direction. One disconnects you from reality, the other empowers you to face it. Positive self-talk doesn't erase challenges, it empowers you to rise through them. It gives you the mental stamina to keep going when circumstances tell you to quit. It sharpens your focus, it strengthens your resilience. It turns obstacles into training grounds. People often think success comes from talent or luck, but the truth is, it comes from the way you speak to yourself in difficult moments. The strongest people aren't the ones who never struggle. They're the ones who refuse to mentally surrender. The most powerful individuals in any field, athletes, artists, CEOs, creators, leaders, understand that mindset is everything. They don't wait for confidence to magically appear. They generate it. They cultivate it through repetition. They build it through deliberate self-talk. They tell themselves, "I can win this," even when they're the underdog. They tell themselves, "I deserve to be here," even when they feel out of place. They tell themselves, "Keep going," even when exhaustion hits. This isn't delusion. This is mental conditioning. Just like muscles grow with repeated workouts, belief grows with repeated encouragement. Strength is built one statement, one thought, one internal promise at a time. And over time, those internal dialogues shape the person you become. To grow, to rise, to expand your life, you must speak to yourself like someone who is moving forward. Positive self-talk is the fuel behind every transformation. It is not a trick for temporary motivation. It is a lifestyle, a practice, a commitment to shaping your inner world with intention every single day. When you speak to yourself with strength, you train your mind to meet challenges with courage instead of fear. You awaken your own potential. You build a foundation that can't be shaken by doubt, criticism, or failure. And most importantly, you give yourself permission to become the version of you that you've always sensed deep down, the version that is brave, focused, resilient, and powerful. You are not escaping reality when you speak positively. You are building the reality you want to step into. Rewrite the labels you inherited because they were never yours to carry. Every one of us walks through life with words stuck to us like invisible stickers. Words given by parents, teachers, friends, enemies, society. Some of those words were spoken carelessly, some out of ignorance, some out of pain that wasn't even ours to bear. And yet somehow we began to believe them. Too much. Not enough. Difficult, quiet, fragile, average. These labels slip into your identity without permission, and suddenly you're living inside a box someone else built. But those labels, they don't define you. They describe the limitations of the people who gave them to you. And if you don't consciously rewrite them, they limit who you allow yourself to become. There's a moment in every person's life when they look around and realize they've been living by rules they never agreed to. Maybe you were told not to dream too big because it's unrealistic. Maybe you were told you weren't smart enough, weren't strong enough, weren't meant for more. But those were projections, someone else's fears wrapped up as advice, someone else's insecurities disguised as truth. That's the danger of inherited labels. They sound like wisdom, but they're actually warnings from people who never discovered their own potential. And if you don't question those labels, they turn into limits. They become ceilings you never try to break. But the moment you question them, you start reclaiming your identity. You begin writing your own definitions. Think about how many decisions you've made because of those labels. How many opportunities you didn't pursue. How many conversations you didn't start. How many risks you avoided. How many versions of yourself you silenced. You didn't do those things because you weren't capable. You did them because a label convinced you that you weren't. That's the tragedy. But it's also the awakening. Because once you see it, once you truly understand that the voice holding you back isn't your own, everything changes. You start recognizing the difference between your true self and the narrative you inherited. You begin to feel the weight of words you never needed to carry. And you realize letting go isn't weakness, it's liberation. Rewriting your labels isn't about pretending nothing ever hurt you. It's about reclaiming the authorship of your life. It's about saying, "This is who I choose to be," instead of, "This is who I was told I am." It requires courage to challenge the version of yourself that was built through years of repetition, criticism, or misunderstanding. It requires strength to release beliefs that feel familiar, even when they limit you. But the most powerful transformations begin with a simple truth: you are allowed to redefine yourself at any moment. You are allowed to evolve beyond people's expectations. You are allowed to break generational patterns. You are allowed to outgrow the identity that was handed to you. You don't owe anyone consistency. You owe yourself authenticity. The world changes the moment you change the label you respond to. When you decide that you are capable, your behavior follows. When you decide you are worthy, your choices transform. When you decide you are powerful, your energy shifts. People will notice it. Some will celebrate it. Some will be intimidated by it. But their reactions don't matter. What matters is that you're finally speaking your truth instead of repeating someone else's. You're finally seeing yourself without the filter of old judgment. You're finally stepping into the version of you that was always there, waiting to be acknowledged. Rewriting your labels is not just mental, it's personal, it's emotional, it's a declaration that your life is your own. And here's the most important part: the labels you choose today become the foundation of your future. When you replace "not enough" with "more than capable," you open doors you once thought were locked. When you replace "broken" with "growing," you give yourself permission to heal. When you replace "average" with "unique," you start recognizing the strengths you've always overlooked. Your identity isn't fixed. Your identity is fluid, evolving, expanding with every experience, every challenge, every choice to rise. You're not defined by what happened to you. You're defined by what you decide to do next. You're not limited by the words of your past. You're empowered by the words you choose now. You are not the labels you inherited, you are the identity you choose to rise into. Talk to yourself the way you'd talk to someone you love. It sounds simple, almost too simple, but it is one of the most life-changing shifts you can make. Think about the tenderness, the patience, the understanding you offer the people you care about. Think about how gently you speak to a friend who's hurting, how you reassure someone who's scared, how you remind them of their strength when they forget it. Now compare that to the way you speak to yourself. The double standard is shocking. Most people reserve kindness for others and criticism for themselves. They are brutally harsh with their own hearts, unforgiving with their own mistakes, impatient with their own growth. If you ever spoke to someone you love the way you speak to yourself in your darkest moments, you'd break their spirit. So why is it acceptable when the spirit is your own? The truth is, self-talk sets the tone for your sense of worth. When you speak to yourself with cruelty, even silently, you teach your mind to believe that love must be earned and perfection must be achieved. But when you speak to yourself with compassion, you teach your mind that you are worthy simply because you exist. Imagine the stability, the courage, the peace that would come from having an internal voice that supports you instead of scrutinizing you. When you talk to someone you love, you don't define them by their worst errors. You don't reduce them to their weaknesses. You don't shame them for being human. You see them as a whole person, a mix of flaws and brilliance, mistakes and potential, fears and courage. You understand that growth takes time and you're patient with them through the process. But with yourself, you expect perfection on the first try. You punish yourself for not knowing something you've never been taught. You judge yourself for needing rest. You criticize yourself for feeling emotions that are completely natural. You rob yourself of grace, and then wonder why you struggle to feel confident or stable. The way you speak to yourself determines the environment you grow in, and no one thrives in a hostile environment. Talking to yourself like someone you love is not about letting yourself off the hook. It's not about avoiding accountability or pretending you're flawless. It's about delivery. It's about intention. When you love someone and they make a mistake, you don't tear them down, you guide them, you speak in a way that helps them grow instead of shutting them down. That's what your self-talk needs to become: supportive, constructive, and rooted in the belief that you deserve to be better because you deserve better. When you replace criticism with coaching and shame with understanding, you don't weaken yourself, you strengthen yourself. You become more resilient because you're not constantly battling your own mind. Self-love is not a luxury, it's a responsibility. Because the way you speak to yourself determines the quality of every experience you have. If your inner voice is constantly judging you, you'll never take risks. If your inner voice constantly doubts you, you'll never believe you're worthy of good things. If your inner voice constantly attacks you, you'll never trust yourself. But when your inner voice becomes your ally instead of your enemy, you start showing up differently. You start taking care of yourself differently. You start forgiving yourself differently. You start dreaming differently. You start living differently. And the world sees it. People feel the shift. They feel the confidence you carry. They feel the self-respect you radiate. You can't fake that. It comes from within. You deserve to be spoken to with kindness, with dignity, with compassion. Not because you're perfect, but because you're human, because you're growing, because you're trying, because you are worthy of the same gentleness you extend to others. When you talk to yourself like someone you love, you rewrite the foundation of your identity. You upgrade your relationship with yourself, and that relationship influences every relationship in your life. It influences your standards, your boundaries, your choices, your future. So speak to yourself with the strength and softness of someone who knows they matter, someone who knows they're deserving, someone who refuses to be their own bully. Because when your inner voice becomes loving, your entire life rises to meet that love. Start speaking to yourself like someone worth protecting, worth believing in, and worth loving because you are. Your inner dialogue shapes your energy, and your energy shapes your reality. People underestimate this truth because they think energy is something mystical, something abstract. But your energy is simply the emotional fuel you bring into every room, every conversation, every decision, every challenge. And that fuel is created by the way you talk to yourself. If your inner dialogue is heavy, negative, or self-defeating, your energy collapses. Your body tightens, your shoulders drop, your face loses its spark, and you move through life with a weight that drains your ability to see possibility. But when your inner voice speaks with power, clarity, hope, and determination, your entire energy shifts. You stand taller, you breathe deeper, you engage differently. The world feels less threatening and more open. That shift is not coincidence, it's cause and effect. Think about the times in your life when you felt unstoppable. Maybe it was after you achieved something difficult, overcame a fear, or hit a breakthrough. Your energy in those moments was electric, not because the world changed, but because you changed internally. You talked to yourself differently. You allowed yourself to feel capable. You allowed yourself to feel proud. You allowed yourself to feel powerful. That inner permission fueled your energy, and your energy fueled your actions. The opposite is also true. When you speak to yourself with doubt, your energy shrinks. When you constantly criticize yourself, your energy weakens. When you repeat fears instead of possibilities, your energy becomes small, cautious, and hesitant. An energy like that cannot carry you into the life you want. Your energy doesn't just affect you, it affects how others experience you. People respond to confidence, they respond to presence, they respond to a person who walks into a situation with belief rather than fear. The energy you carry announces you before you say a single word. It can open doors or close them. It can attract opportunities or repel them. It can inspire trust or skepticism. And all of that begins with your self-talk. When your inner voice tells you that you're capable, you move with assurance. When it tells you that you belong, you act like you do. When it reminds you that you're resilient, you approach challenges with a steady heart instead of panic. Your internal dialogue broadcasts through your energy, and people feel it even if they can't explain it. Energy is not an accident, it's a practice. It is built through repetition, through the daily decision to speak to yourself in ways that strengthen rather than weaken you. Most people wait for something external to change before they allow themselves to feel powerful. A new job, a new relationship, a new achievement, a new opportunity. But waiting to feel powerful guarantees you never will. Power begins internally. It begins with the words you feed your spirit every morning, every night, every moment you're shaken or uncertain. When you choose empowering self-talk consistently, you start building an internal energy source that doesn't depend on external validation. And that kind of energy is rare, magnetic, and life-changing. The truth is, your energy becomes your identity. People will know you by the way you carry yourself. They'll recognize you by the calm you bring, the confidence you radiate, the strength you hold, the resilience you show. They will experience you through the energy that comes from your self-talk. This is why your internal dialogue matters so deeply. It creates the emotional and psychological foundation for your entire life. A person who constantly tears themselves apart will not move through the world with certainty. A person who constantly uplifts themselves will not stay small. Your self-talk shapes your self-perception, and your self-perception shapes your presence. Everything starts inside. And here's the greatest truth of all. You have the power to choose your energy. You have the power to shift your internal language. You have the power to transform the way you show up in your life. It doesn't matter where you're starting from. It doesn't matter how long you've doubted yourself. It doesn't matter what anyone else has told you. What matters is the choice you make now, to speak to yourself with purpose, to fuel your spirit with strength, to build an inner world that lifts you instead of limits you. Because when your self-talk becomes empowered, your energy becomes undeniable. And when your energy rises, your entire world rises with you. Shape your inner voice with power, and you'll shape your life with unstoppable force. You become unstoppable the moment your inner voice becomes your inner ally. Most people never reach their full power because they are fighting a battle inside their own minds every single day. Imagine trying to climb a mountain while someone keeps pulling at your backpack, whispering, "You can't do this, you're not strong enough, you're going to fail." Now imagine that voice is coming from inside you. That is the reality for so many people. They're not held back by circumstances, by their past, or by their potential. They're held back by a voice that should be their greatest source of strength, but has become their greatest source of doubt. But when that inner voice shifts, when it starts saying, "Keep going, I've got your back, we're made for this," everything changes. You stop climbing alone. You start climbing supported. Your inner ally is the version of you that sees your potential even when your world feels heavy. It's the version that remembers your courage when fear clouds your vision. It's the version that knows your capability is far bigger than your insecurity. But that ally doesn't show up by accident. You have to deliberately build that voice. You have to train it, nurture it, strengthen it the way an athlete strengthens their body. It begins with choosing language that fuels your perseverance instead of feeding your panic. It begins with speaking to yourself like someone who is worthy of success, worthy of peace, worthy of greatness. That shift in inner dialogue is not small, it's revolutionary. Because when your mind becomes your partner instead of your opponent, you unlock a level of strength you didn't even know existed. Think about the greatest challenges you've faced. The times when life knocked you down, when you felt lost, when you didn't know how you were going to push forward. If you look back honestly, you'll see something important. The moments when you rose were the moments when your inner voice refused to abandon you. You might not have called it positive self-talk, but it was there. The quiet determination, the whispered encouragement, the part of you that said, "Don't give up yet." That voice saved you. That voice carried you. That voice pushed you into the future you deserve. Now imagine if that voice was intentional, consistent, stronger, louder. Imagine if that voice was empowered every day, not just in moments of desperation. That is what it means to make your inner voice your ally. When your inner voice becomes your supporter, your resilience multiplies. Setbacks no longer feel like endings. They feel like stepping stones. Failure stops feeling like proof you're not good enough and becomes proof that you're trying, learning, evolving. Criticism becomes easier to handle because your sense of worth no longer depends on external approval. And challenges start to look less like threats and more like opportunities to rise higher. This doesn't mean life gets easier. It means you get stronger. It means the setbacks that used to break you now build you. It means the doubts that used to paralyze you now push you into action. Strength is not the absence of fear. It is the decision that your inner voice will stand with you even when fear tries to stand against you. When you become your own ally, you stop waiting for others to validate your dreams. You stop relying on temporary motivation. You stop shrinking yourself to fit environments that don't appreciate who you are. You start making decisions based on your potential, not your past. You start setting boundaries that honor your self-worth. You start showing up in ways that reflect your growth instead of your wounds. This is the transformation. People notice, not because you become louder or flashier, but because you radiate certainty. Your presence changes, your choices change, your energy changes. You begin to move like someone who knows they belong in every room they enter. That kind of confidence cannot be faked. It is built from within. And when that inner alliance is solid, when your mind and your heart stand on the same side, you become a force the world cannot ignore. You become someone who doesn't break easily, someone who adapts, evolves, and rises. Someone who doesn't back down from challenges because they know they're not facing them alone. The strongest part of themselves is right there, guiding them, pushing them, believing in them. And that is what makes you unstoppable. Not perfection, not luck, not external validation, but the decision to be on your own side, to speak to yourself with power, to believe in yourself with conviction, to become the ally you've always needed. When your inner voice stands with you, nothing in this world can stand against you.